It's a coalition of 134 developing countries that seeks to promote members' collective economic interests while creating an enhanced negotiating capacity at organizations like the United Nations.
This summit gives us the ability to have a collective deliberation at the highest political level to join efforts in defense of the interests of the majorities. It helps us to conciliate positions in the face of the current challenges for development and the well-being of our peoples. But also, it is imposing questions after almost 60 years of diplomatic battle and the goal attempt to transform the unfair rules that are ruling over international standards. We have to recall the calls from historic leaders to democratize the United Nations. The warnings by Fidel Castro that tomorrow it will be too late.
Bloc's meeting is focused on current developmental challenges and the role that science, technology and innovation can play towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. The UN chief lauded efforts among the group to lift millions out of poverty and its support for the globe's development agenda. But in a world shaped by rising costs of living, rising poverty, soaring debt and surging climate disasters, he acknowledged the failures of global systems and frameworks. Guterres acknowledged that the world had failed developing countries.
Global action that respects national ownership to build an international system that upholds human rights and works in your interests at all levels. And that requires the G77 Plus China using its voice to fight for a world that works for all.
The meeting in Havana serving as a prelude to a key SDG summit in New York next Monday and a climate ambition summit on Wednesday, as key pegs of this year's high-level UN General Assembly, where development needs and geopolitical concerns will come to a head.
The begins with the multilateral system itself. We are moving to a multipolar world. Multipolarity creates new opportunities for leadership on the global stage. But alone, it doesn't guarantee peace and justice. Those require strong, effective institutions. Many of today's institutions, particularly the Nations Security Council and the Bretton Woods institutions, reflect a bygone era. One when many developing countries were shackled by colonial rule and had no say on their own affairs or on global affairs. I have proposed measures to make the global financial architecture more representative and responsive to the needs of developing countries. And the SDG Summit next week and the Summit of the Future next year are real chances to make headway.
International Relations and Cooperation Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor, who is leading the South African delegation in Cuba, will reiterate calls for the global north to better support technology transfers to developing countries in the context of the SDGs. Sherwin Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.